In today's video, we're going to resurrect a PC that we visited in the last video, but it didn't quite work. But today, it works. So, let's roll that montage, and then I'll get explaining how I fixed this. Let's go. So here's the completed build, guys, and what do you think? I think it's come out not too bad, don't you? So let's talk about the story. So last video, if you remember, we brought a £150 PC off this guy on Facebook Marketplace, and unfortunately we had a bit of problems with the motherboard and the CPU. So that wasn't great. And I kind of made a PC and I kind of put things together, and basically I just wasn't really happy. I kind of wanted to come back to this PC because I was like, I'm determined not to let this one go by. I just don't know, there's something to me at times where I'm just like, no, this is going to bloody work. And I'm going to make it work. And I'm happy to say that I have made it work and we're all good. So basically, yes, that PC, the motherboard and the CPU didn't work because I think it was bent pins. Now, whether I've bent them or whether they were bent before, I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't really matter now. What I did is I kind of sat down for about an hour or so and just really slowly went through the socket, just checking every single pin, just really making sure that every single pin was exactly where it should have been in its slot. And it was very time consuming, but it has kind of been worth it because we have actually fixed it now. So this is the original motherboard that you saw in the last video, which is the, I believe it's the, yeah, let me see. Yeah, so it's an ASUS H110 or the H110. It's an ATX board. It's okay. It's very basic. It's only the H series, so that's a very much an entry level board for the 6th and 7th gen Intel. But we have bent those pins back and we have got it working with the i5 7500, and those two components came originally with the black PC, which it's on the previous video, and I'll probably put screenshots up, or I'll put the video up. I put the video up of that old case, but I didn't really want to go with that old case because I just didn't really like how it looked, to be honest, guys. And it was very kind of dirty and scratched up, and it was all a bit, I don't know, it wasn't very great, was it? So I've actually used one of my old PCs, well, one of my old PC cases. I've had this for about 4 years or so, and just sort of put it in its box, and then just not really revisited it. And I was always going to build another PC in it eventually, so I'm glad we actually have got a PC to put inside of it today. So let's quickly talk over the components, and then obviously we'll see those gaming benchmarks right at the very end of the video. So altogether this PC has probably cost me about £175, but it's all very much up in the air because it's originally from the £150 PC, and I've kind of changed a few components out and what have you. So it's kind of around 175, I'm guessing, but I don't know exactly. But anyway, as I said, the Intel i5 7500, 7th gen Intel i5, not great, only 4 core, 4 thread, so yeah, lacking. But I didn't really want to get another motherboard for this, it wasn't really worth it. And yes, potentially I could upgrade to a i7 7700, but that's about £50 or so on eBay. And even the i7 6700 is about £40. So yeah, it's just not really worth it if I'm being honest. But it's a potential for a future upgrade, yes. And if it doesn't sell, I might look at that. And then, as I said, that ASUS H110, H110 motherboard. I don't know the exact mod. I'll try and put it below if I can find it. There isn't a lot of writing on this one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's actually under the graphics card, the exact model, but it's a basic H110 motherboard. You kind of know what that looks like, so that's not a problem. We've got 16 gigabytes of DDR4 memory, which is the Corsair Vengeance LPX. Now that is, technically the RAM is 2666 megahertz, although this being a H series motherboard, it only takes up to 2400 megahertz because of the chipset limitation. So yeah, a little bit disappointing there with the RAM, and it's only one stick as well, which again is a bit disappointing. But again, we do have 16 gigabytes, so we can advertise that when we go to sell it, and I do think 16 is enough, so that's not a problem. And then moving on to the power supply, although you can't see it, that's the Corsair CV450, so just a standard 450 watt power supply, kind of get the job done. It's got all black cables, which is nice as well, so makes it look quite a nice little build, not having all that ketchup and mustard rubbish, because we don't want that. In 2024, you really want to try and keep away from that if you can, so that's great. A nice little cheap power supply, which I paid only about £20 for that power supply, so that's actually a really good price. And again, you won't be able to see it, but down here we have a ADATA 240 gigabyte SSD, 2.5 inch. Again, not great. I would like a 512 gigabyte SSD, especially in 2024. The games are really getting big now, aren't they? So that's not great. But again, I had it knocking around. I've had it in my inventory and in my stock, so I've just kind of put it in. And again, this is a very cheap PC, so I didn't really want to. It's one of those where it's not worth spending the extra money with a sort of PC like this, and just trying to get something together and sell it on for as cheap as you can is the better option. And then that's all enclosed in the Phanteks P300 case, which is a really nice case, and it's actually in white, this one, so it does actually make it look a little bit different, the build, I think. And it is a little bit, there is a little bit of extra cleaning I maybe can do now, and a little bit of extra dusting that I'll probably do just before I list it. But it's okay. It has got the closed front, which is the kind of real problem with this. Now, the P300A actually was the airflow version, and that's obviously the more premium version, which they released a little bit later after this P300. And that's obviously the one with the mesh at the front, so it looks so much better and it lets so much more air through as well. So that's the more premium model and the better model to get. But I think even that one they've discontinued now, so you can't get these cases, unfortunately. But they are very nice cases, and there's plenty of room for cable management in the back, which is really good. Phanteks have always thought about that, and I've always thought that Phanteks have been a very good brand. So, big up to them. And rounding it all off is our graphics card, obviously. So our Gigabyte GTX 1060 6GB version, which you saw in the previous video. Just a standard 1060 here, nothing special. dual fan or the two fan version, so none of that single fan rubbish, because it makes a real whine and we don't want that. Two fans is nice. This card keeps around sort of 65 degrees or so really good there on the temperatures. I've tested it and it all seems absolutely spot on, so I'm happy with that. It is going to be held back by our i5 7500. It is going to be held back, but again, with a PC this cheap, doing the upgrades which are necessary to make it a better PC isn't kind of worth it, because by the time you've put in that extra money, you're not going to get it back, sort of thing. So in terms of when you sell it, so I kind of just think just go right budget, just go as cheap as we can, and then get a nice little flip. So talking about price now, as I said, probably about £175 we're into this. Again, I'm kind of guessing, but I'm going to put it at 175, because I've had this case kind of knocking around, so it's kind of free. The SSD was kind of free because from a previous build. The power supply is only 20 quid. It's only really the graphics card that we've got probably about 50 or 60 pounds in, and then the actual rest of the PC isn't particularly that much either. So I'm going to say 175, and I think that's fair. And then for selling price, we'll put it up for 275, so £100 potential profit there if we do sell it at that price. Although I will accept 250, so that's still a £75 profit margin. So £75 on a little cheap PC, I'm happy with that, and I'll ship it on for that. I'll see if someone wants it, and I think this actually might sell quite well, because I do think the white kind of, it's a little bit different, isn't it, guys, the white? And I do think maybe you know, I mean, it does appeal to boys as well, but I think maybe to girls it maybe appeals more, the white. So it might be, you know, potentially might be sold to a girl here, but we'll see. I mean, whoever buys it. I don't really care at the end of the day, do I? So it's all good there. And it does have tempered glass on the front here as well, but that's just down there. So it's not bad. Obviously with our PSU shroud, it's a good case, this P300. It's just a shame that it obviously doesn't have the mesh at the front, but hey ho. But anyway, I've blabbled on far too much, as I always do. So really, all we've got to do now is show you the benchmarks, and then we'll end the video. So let's roll those benchmarks. So our first game up is Fortnite. 1080p low, the settings are. So 1080p full screen, and we are running at low quality preset. And here is all the settings. So here we go, we've landed now, so we'll start the benchmarking. And we're sitting about 100 frames a second there. Although there is a lot of drops, obviously down to 23 on the 0.1% low, or 12 now, and then 23 on the 1% low. So there is going to be a lot of drops here. As I said, we have the i5 7500, which is only a 4-core, 4-thread processor, so we are going to get limited by that here. But overall, we are sitting round about 90 or so FPS there. How do I get? There we go. Oh, we're in a bit of a fight here. As you can see, there's the frame time graph at the top there, and it does. It will stutter a lot, unfortunately, with a 4-core, 4-thread. It's going to stutter a lot, but the 1066 Gigabyte is actually well capable of running Fortnite, so that's not a problem. But we are just certainly held back by the CPU here. Well, CPU bottleneck for sure. 100% usage on our GPU, and it's only sitting about 36 degrees, so cooling wise we're doing great. Our GPU is only at 33 degrees centigrade as well, or Celsius, and we're using about 40 or so % of the graphics card there, so not too bad. That percentage should be a bit higher, but because we're bottlenecked by the CPU, it's a bit low. Now, as you can see, a 2 FPS and a 4 FPS for our 0.1% and our 1%, so lot of drops here. This is the only problem with playing Fortnite on a 4-core, 4-thread processor now. It's almost impossible, to be honest, but you can go down to performance settings, which is probably what I would do actually. This is 1080p low. It is playable, but you are going to get the stutters and the drops, so just be aware of that. And as you can see, the frame time graph is going everywhere there. It's kind of going up and down everywhere. Oh, whoops. Never mind. Anyway, that was Fortnite. Let's just So yeah, overall Fortnite did all right. We were bottlenecked by the CPU, but overall you've still got some decent performance there. But you are going to get the drops, so just be aware of that. So Shadow of the Tomb Raider next, 1080p full screen here. Graphics set to low. Let's just see what it can do. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, 1080p low. We're sitting around about 90 or so FPS there. So pretty decent. Got up to almost 100 there. Obviously quite good usage on our GPU, about 80 or so there, dropping a little bit. 100% locked at the CPU, but we kind of expect that. It's only a 4-core, 4-thread, so pretty much all the games that you run are going to be locked at 100% usage. However, we do have a very good cooler on. We have got like a tower cooler, so we're only about 39, 40 degrees Celsius there, so that's pretty good. Has dropped down to 50 now, so we are getting bottlenecked fairly badly by the i5 7500, but you can just about get away with it with a 4-core, 4-thread in 2024 if you're really pushed. Obviously this is where the i7 7700 would come in. You know, an upgrade to that would be well worth it. For £50 it is worth it, but obviously I'm selling PCs at a very low price, and I kind of want to come in at that price point, so I've kept with the i5, although you could certainly argue that upgrading up to the i7 would give you a better PC, and you could potentially get up to maybe the 350 mark if you did that. So it might be worth it, and I'll think about it, but really I just want to sell it quick and get it moved on, and then we'll see from there. So our 1080p low results on Shadow of the Tomb Raider, we have a average of 98, a minimum of 72, and a maximum of 224. So very playable here. There were a few drops here and there, but Shadow of the Tomb Raider, not a problem with this setup. So GTA 5 is our next game, and we're going to change all these settings down to normal. I think normal is going to be the right to, yeah, we'll put that there too. Yeah. So those are all the settings. So this is 1080p normal, or what is kind of low in most sort of games. And we're sitting around about 110 FPS there. Let's just try and nick this car. Oh, hello. But what we'll do is we'll start the benchmarking now. So there we go. You can see all the things there. So that's the 0.1 and that's the 1% low. So sitting around about 90 or so FPS there. It is going to drop now and again, and you can see the frame time there as well. Well, I didn't even see where we were going there because I was looking at the benchmarking. So yeah, and like I say, it's fluctuating a lot. I don't know what we're doing here. We have had a 4 FPS drop there on the 0.1, so that's not great. And it is going to drop quite a lot. As you can see on the CPU usage, it's nearly 100% usage. It's kind of dropping here and there. Although on our GPU we are getting about 80 or so, 90% there on our usage on our GPU. And obviously our GPU is sitting really cool, about 45 degrees. So this is working really well. This 1060 6GB doing really well. And also the cooler as well, our Thermalright, a little Thermalright mini cooler. I think it's the Assassin Mini. It's actually doing a really good job and keeping our i5 7500 really cool as well, so that's great. So we're just going to run around here for a little bit. As you can see, I'm obviously no good at the game, but can we get out? A few drops here and there as you can see, but overall we're doing okay. Sitting around about 100 FPS, so this is certainly playable in my opinion. I mean, anything over 60 is fine, and we're sitting around about an average of about 98 there, so pretty good. Yeah, I think GTA 5 is a pass on low settings or normal. You could maybe go a little bit higher and play with a few settings because you've got a little bit of wiggle room there before you hit the 60 FPS mark. So yeah, overall I think it's okay. And I think we'll move on to Cyberpunk 2077 now. So Cyberpunk 2077, and we are on 1080p full screen, and we're on graphics low. So here we go, 1080p low, around about 50 or so FPS there, so not bad. 99% usage on our GPU and 100% usage on our CPU, but we'd expect that. For a little i5, 4-core, 4-thread, this isn't doing too bad actually. This is actually surprising me. The fact that we can almost get 60 FPS, there we go, 60 FPS just there. On Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p low. Okay, yes, we've got a GTX 1060, 6GB, but obviously, you know, our little i5 is actually just about holding in there. So it's an actually quite impressive performance. We're getting into the 70s now. So, you know, it just goes to show that even if you are a bit bottlenecked with your CPU, you can kind of get away with it with a decent GPU, and you can kind of balance it out enough where you can get enough performance. And obviously, yes, if we had a better CPU, we'd be able to get a lot more out of our graphics card. But we've got a nice little cheap PC here that's going to get decent performance for anyone who's going to buy it. So I'm happy, and that's all we need. And here we go with the average FPS is actually above 60 at 62 there, with a minimum of 46 and a maximum of 80. So, you know, Cyberpunk 2077 at 1080p low on this system is actually playable. Who'd have thought it? But there we go. So I think overall that kind of concludes the video. I hope you liked it, guys. Really nice getting a system which was kind of gone and I kind of wrote it off, back up and running again. Really good feeling. Going to be able to get a bit of money out of it now as well, so that's also a bonus. And overall I think a win is a win, don't you guys? So hopefully you did like this video. Please drop a like if you did. Please comment on what you think of my build. And obviously please subscribe so you can see my future videos. And as always, guys, I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.